Which is the worst single decision in history ever made by a person?
The decision by the Scottish to invade England during Black Death must be up there.
Alan Savory, https://www.fast-company.com/26815-8/this-man-shot-for-of-of-of-elephants-before-he-figure-out-that-s Avenue the Planet, the ecologist who killed 40,000 elephants because it was believed that grazing was causing the desertification of Africa, only to find out later that elephants were essential to prevent desertification.
Mao Zedong pest campaign. He basically told his nation to take pots and pans to kill all the sparrows. However, the ecosystem was disturbed and the locust population skyrocketed. Seeds. He thought that planting seeds 1 meter in the ground would result in greater roots and better harvest. He also thought that putting tons of seeds in one compact area would cause a better harvest. All the seeds died, however. Around 30 million or so died from famine under his rule. Hey, look at the other nations industrializing. Let's smelt all our metal to build better infrastructure. What? It creates pig iron, which is super unstable and impure, therefore being ultimately useless. Oops.
Now you see me sequel not being called Now You Don't.
Eastman Kodak deciding not to go forward with their own newly invented digital cameras and instead sticking with film because it made him so much money at the time.
The guy that sold the bottling rights for Coca-Cola for $1 and never even made the guy pay the $1. https://www.
Maybe not the *worst*, but maybe Ronald Wayne. He was a co-founder of Apple along with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in 1976. Just 12 days after forming the company, he sold his shares for $800. He owned 10% of the company, which would be worth $80 billion, $80 billion today. And the #X200B source. https://www.cnbc.com/2017/09/12/apples-third-code-founder-ronald-wayne-sold-his-staked-for-HTML. Don't know how accurate this is, but the story still stands.
Robert Ballard, one of the guys who discovered Titanic, says that his biggest regret is that he and Jean-Louis Michel didn't bring a piece of the Titanic up with him when he first discovered it in 1985. At the time, they didn't want to disturb the wreck and leave it pristine. But if they had done so, then they would have been able to claim legal ownership of the wreck under international maritime law, and therefore more control over it. Because they chose not to do that, everyone and their grandma is free to take artifacts and pieces of the wreck, and this makes preservation impossible. Edit. A fair number of people have been asking this in the comments. So instead of replying to everyone individually, I thought I'd put this in as an edit. And thanks to the commenters who helped explain this. There is a school of thought which Robert Ballard, and myself, incidentally, subscribes to, which is that the wreck is the final resting place of the more than 1,500 souls who perished that cold night on the 14th of April 1912, and must therefore be treated with the same respect and dignity. Private companies who take artifacts and pieces of the wreck and sell them for profit are effectively grave robbing, and while the wreck is gradually deteriorating into nothing, the argument is that this doesn't matter, it's just nature taking its course. Of course, there is the argument that removing certain artifacts from the wreck and putting them in a museum is conducive to both the public good and the memory of the victims. I don't have a problem with that, personally, and I can't speak for Robert Ballard. But I do have a problem with the commercial scavengers taking pieces up to sell them, monsieur. My understanding is that if he and his team were the registered owners of the wreck, he would have a claim to anything taken from the wreck and sold for profit, which would potentially deter people.
Maybe the worst business decision ever made was by Xerox with their Alto computer. Xerox invented the graphical interface modern computers use. Desktop, folders, copy, paste, etc. They basically invented the modern computer in the 70s. But the problem was, the people in charge at the time were businessmen without any technical knowledge, so they didn't realize what they had. They did nothing with it and gave it away to universities and showed other companies. The famous story is that Steve Jobs saw this and within 5 minutes realized this was the way computers would work in the future. He copied it, because Xerox didn't patent their invention and didn't do anything with it, and the rest is history. Xerox could have been Apple or Microsoft. Or both. They could have had a monopoly on the entire PC industry. Almost every company uses Windows in their offices. I think 80 or 90% of consumers uses Windows. That could have been Xerox. They had the tech maybe 10 years before anyone else. They could have been the most valuable company of all time, but they just gave it away.
Radcliffe Line. The process to divide India and Pakistan boundary in 1947 was done hastily and without major considerations to local populace religion. Radcliffe was not a geography guy and majorly messed up the process.
Not the worst in the world, but apparently my family owned a little town west of Kent, UK.
Hey, let's create a coffee machine that uses a single-use plastic cup for every cup of coffee or tea. How bad can the trash from that really be? I actually read that the creator of the K-Cup, John Sylvan, regrets inventing the pod system, monsieur.
Well, the decision of Inalchuq, the governor of the Khwarezmian city of Otra, to attack Genghis Khan's trade caravan was pretty bad. Khan was famous as a ruthless warlord, not the sort of guy you want to piss off. But maybe they could have got away with it. Genghis sent 3 ambassadors to negotiate a settlement, which is when Muhammad II, the Shah of Khwarezm, made the really bad decision to kill one of these ambassadors and send the other 2 back without their beards as a sign of humiliation. Genghis Khan was so enraged he assembled an army and destroyed the Khwarezmian Empire. Wiped out every town they had. He even rerouted a river to wipe out the village where the Shah was born, wiping it off the map. By 1120 there wasn't much of anything left. So, both Inalchuq or Muhammad II of Khwarezm qualify. Take your pick.
When Mr. Hands tried to bang that horse, Alcibiades was considered a traitor in Athens for leading his men to death. A traitor in Sparta because he got the queen to cheat on the king with him, and a traitor in Persia after including him in a war. Edit. So I did a little bit of info, and the switching sides and stealing statues' dicks are also true, plus he is a bisexual. How about the guy who bought 20,000 Albanian slaves, brought them to Cairo, trained them to be the greatest warriors of their time, and then got overthrown by said slave warriors because they were so well trained? https://n wikipedia.org/wiki/Mamluk Podcast about Napoleon Bonaparte is where I got this from, monsieur. It's a good one if you have an hour to listen. https://open spotify.com/episode/2Q4
Kaiser Wilhelm II firing Otto von Bismarck. Bismarck had a plan. He always has a plan. But not when an incompetent Kaiser boots him out of his means of putting his plans into action. Bismarck had everything set up perfectly. But Wilhelm II decided to fuck up everything he had set up, and got into World War I for it. Edit. _that gold Kindle strangler _. If you want to learn more about the greatest Chad in European history since Voltaire, I highly recommend watching this series. https://youtube.com/playlist. List equals +5ETZ_5DTZ_FabKick09TZDX1HTWF, which goes over Bismarck pretty well.
Well, having just watched Chernobyl,
The Donner Party of 90 pioneers choosing to take a shortcut when heading west from Illinois to California in 1846. Said shortcut led to them getting trapped in the Sierra Nevada mountains and resorting to cannibalism.
All right gentlemen, we've successfully fended off the Greeks for 10 years. Our great city of Troy still stands. If we keep this up, surely they will realize the siege is fruitless and return home before long.
Gerald Ratner talking shit about his own business. He was ousted and the firm almost collapsed before restructuring and rebranding.
Brutus decided to join Cassius in murdering the dictatorial tyrant, Caesar. The reason? They suspected his intent to become a king, which then started a chain of events leading to his adopted son Caesar becoming a military dictator without equal, having all the powers of a king without being called one. When this Caesar Augustus dies, his name and title is passed on for the next 400 years, almost like you would a crown. Monarchies then returned all over Europe, in the style of Augustus Caesar. And so, the decision of Brutus to join the conspiracy in effect changed all of Western civilization for the next 1,900 years to adopt the very political style he wanted to avoid. It would not be until the 1770s when America and later France would begin revolting and experimenting with democracies and republics.
Whoever said the world's biggest MMO, RuneScape, should remove the wilderness and free trade? They threw a literal fortune down the drain just because they didn't understand their own product. Asterisk. Let's invade Russia. Asterisk must somewhere up the list. Twice.
Thanks for watching. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel.